You're listening to a podcast by Way Collective, a contemplative community for love and liberation in Santa Barbara, California. This recording was the conversation starter at our Dinner and Dialogue gathering on June 18th, 2025. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm excited to begin exploring our new series, Cracking the Code. How do we stay human in the age of AI? And tonight we'll begin by looking at some basics about artificial intelligence, what it is and how it might be making an impact in our lives right now and in the future. And we'll keep coming back to that question. How do we stay human during this time of such rapid technological change? And we're going to use information and feedback that you gave us from the survey you filled out about AI. And thank you for doing that. It was really helpful. We learned that we're on the same page. We're curious about AI, and we're mostly hopeful, but we're also cautious, and we've got some concerns. And that really makes sense. It makes sense because with all of the opportunities it might bring, artificial intelligence also has risks. And it makes sense because everything's moving so quickly. And you might wonder, how quickly is it moving? Well, what if I told you that AI is already a part of your everyday life? AI is already a part of your everyday life. And just see how that sits with you. Some of you may think that's a pretty bold statement, but whether we realize it or not, we're coming into contact with AI on a daily basis. But because it's often working in the background, we're really not aware of it as we bump up against it. And we're bumping up against it every single day. So full disclosure, that survey on AI that you filled out, that was entirely created with ChatGPT, which uses AI. So how else might you be experiencing artificial intelligence? Well, when you ask Siri or Alexa or your smartwatch for the weather, or you ask it to turn on your favorite music or radio station, that's AI. Or when you can't remember the name of an actor or the name of a movie and you do a Google search for it, Google is now using AI. It's also being used in the scanners at self-checkouts. And if Netflix is sending you ideas for movies or shows you might like, or Spotify shows you some music that it thinks you'll like, that's using AI. And if you happen to be watching the NBA finals last week, maybe you caught the first fully AI-generated TV commercial. It took $2,000 to make and just 3 days to create. And that could be a game changer for the industry. AI is showing up in lots and lots of areas in our lives. In entertainment, yes, we just use that, but also in retail, manufacturing, transportation, energy, cybersecurity, agriculture, technology, of course, also in education. And when your bank sends you a fraud alert on your account, that's using AI. And it's making huge changes in healthcare, where it's now helping to do medical research and finding new medicines. It's also getting really good at reading X-rays and detecting diseases. If you've been to the doctor lately, you might have noticed that he or she is using AI to help them take notes. And not long ago, AI really seemed like science fiction, didn't it? I remember as a kid watching Star Trek, and I thought it would be so cool to have one of those voice commander thingies they use to communicate with each other. And in 1992, and I know I'm dating myself, but I got my first cell phone. And it wasn't a flip phone because those had not even been invented yet. But I thought it was so cool to have a cell phone. I really felt like I was living in the future. And I'm not a tech expert, but I've always been curious about what we humans can dream up and what we can create. When my husband started working at Microsoft many years ago, a computer in every home was just a dream. And then fast forward to today, and we're all carrying around a computer in our cell phone. And I don't have Siri or Alexa, but I have been using ChatGPT for the past 2 years. And it's really helped me in my coaching business. It's like having an assistant or maybe even a creative partner. And I gotta say, it's getting better and better all the time. So what is AI and how does it work? Well, it refers to computer systems or software that can perform tasks which we would normally think of requiring human intelligence, like recognizing speech, making decisions, generating text, and analyzing data. But AI doesn't actually think on its own or understand. It operates by identifying patterns and mimicking intelligent behavior based on those patterns, based on the patterns that it's been trained on. So companies like OpenAI, which has ChatGPT, or Google, which has Gemini, and Meta, which has Llama, these are all companies that are developing AI and use AI in those products. They train their systems, their AI systems, with tons of information, tons of data from books, websites, conversations, and images. And from all of this data, the AI learns patterns to predict what might come next. And this kind of learning is called machine learning. But keep in mind, AI isn't learning the way humans do. It's not using reflection or intention or awareness. It doesn't understand the meaning behind the data. And that's why it can, and sometimes does, reflect bias or make mistakes. It throws out misinformation. And keep in mind, its training input can show up in its output. Sometimes AI even makes things up. And when it does that, this is called a hallucination. It might give you a fake quote or make up a false reference. And in fact, I was reading a few years ago, a lawyer in federal court got into trouble when he used ChatGPT to do legal research. And he didn't realize that the AI had actually given him made-up cases to use in court. The judge discovered it, and that's how the lawyer got into trouble. So these hallucinations aren't intentional. They're just AI guessing based on patterns. It's predicting what sounds right, not what is right. So let's look at the 4 types of AI. And keep in mind, just these first 2, narrow AI and generative AI, actually exist today. So narrow AI, it's sometimes called weak AI, that's already in use. It's used by Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, Netflix, Amazon, and Spotify, and many more. The second one is generative AI, or Gen AI. And this can create new content. And it includes tools like ChatGPT and DALL-E and many others that can write, create art, compose music, help us brainstorm, and much, much more. Like I said, this is here now. We have this capability now. So here's an example. A Gen AI tool can take a short prompt, like you could say, write a bedtime story about a dragon and a hummingbird. And in just a few minutes, you'll have an illustrated story with text, artwork, and even narration. That's pretty amazing. The third kind is not here yet. This is artificial general intelligence, AGI. Again, this doesn't yet exist, but some researchers believe it may come to fruition in the next few years, and this is what so many companies are working to achieve right now. Other researchers are thinking it's many, many years away or may never arrive at all. And this type of AI would be more like a human, and in fact, it would be more like a human scientist. For example, AGI could take all of the Alzheimer's research that has ever been to date, have a look at it, and then come up with new treatments, ideas for new treatments. And it could also really help us find solutions for climate change. Again, it's not here yet. The fourth type is called super intelligent AI, or ASI. And this one is entirely speculative at this point. This type of AI would surpass human intelligence on all levels. And it might be so advanced that we actually really can't understand or comprehend what it could do. So all of this will affect the future in many ways. It will affect all of us. Some ways that we know about and some ways that we don't know about. We do definitely know it's going to affect the environment because it's already affecting the environment. In fact, this year in the United States, electricity use is expected to hit record highs, actually this year and next year, and it's all due to the increased demands of AI. And this is why tech companies and governments are currently looking at nuclear energy as an option. We also know that AI is going to affect jobs. And while it probably won't replace entire roles overnight, some areas of industry are already starting to automate. And in the corporate world, lots of people are talking about AI agents. And these are essentially personal assistants. It's really a kind of smart software that can act on its own. So if you think about an example, this is an example. You could ask an AI agent to book you a vacation, and it would search for flights, it would make the reservations, it would compare hotel prices, and it would check your calendar, and it would rebook if the flight got canceled or if your plans changed. And this is all without it needing you to guide the process. So that's pretty incredible. But here's the hopeful part. Jobs that rely on emotional intelligence, creativity, and human connection, those aren't going away. And in fact, those jobs are becoming more important. So as we wrap up, let's return to our original question. What does it mean to stay fully human in the time of AI, in the time of this rapid change? It's so easy to feel overwhelmed when things are moving so quickly. But it's in times like these that our connections to loved ones, to family, to friends, these become really important connections. And our community becomes essential. Using a contemplative approach, we can pause and reflect. And we can bring awareness to the present moment and stay grounded in our values of curiosity, compassion, and connection. Creating a sense of belonging really matters. So let's together continue to create that sense of belonging through community and belonging through connection. So these are just a few ways of staying connected, staying centered, staying grounded, and we'll talk about more as the series goes on. I'm really looking forward to discussing this. So let's go to our 3 contemplative conversation questions. The first question is the self question. What is one way that AI could support your personal life or your inner growth? And what boundaries or values would you want to protect in that process? And number two, the society question. What kind of workplace, neighborhood, or social system could we imagine? One where technology supports justice, creativity, and human dignity. And the third question, the sacred question. How can we stay spiritually grounded in wisdom, compassion, and awe as we navigate a future shaped by increasingly intelligent tools?
Thanks for listening to this podcast by Way Collective. To keep up with our community, you can subscribe to this podcast, go to www.waycollective.org, or follow us on Instagram at @waycollective. Peace and every good, y'all.